Hi, this is Bob from Bob Johnson's Computer Stuff. And if you're looking for an online Toughbook community that gives tips, tricks, and support, hit the subscribe and that bell button so we can notify you of all our newest upcoming videos. Today, I'll be going through the 5 most common issues of your DuraBook Z14i, so stay tuned. Well, thanks for sticking around. What I'm going to talk about is the 5 most common issues with this DuraBook Z14i. Now, I've had the chance to use this for a couple of weeks, and I want to point out, first of all, this is a brand new laptop. There's really no issue here that I'm going to mention that is detrimental, and it shouldn't stop you from buying the unit at all. It's just little pet peeves that I have, and I'm kind of nitpicking, so these may not even matter to you, but I think it needs to be said. So I use a lot of ruggedized laptops, and the one thing I've noticed about this particular laptop is that it's not as metal feeling as other models. It has more of a Dell Latitude 5414 or 5424 feel to it. It's, you know, this down here is nice and rigid. I feel like it's a metal alloy of some sort, but the top isn't as metal feeling as your Panasonic Toughbook, for example, or even your Getac. But that doesn't mean it's not ruggedized, and certainly has the rugged ability to it. Number 4 in my list is during casual use. So what I used this thing for was to surf the web and do paperwork or Excel spreadsheets and Word documents and whatnot. I noticed that, I would leave it running overnight because I wanted to see what it would feel like. And it does run warm to the touch. And whenever you, to give you an example, so this palm rest right here would get nice and warm, and I thought at first, well, it must just be the battery that was charging in the bay, because the battery is on right over here. But that in fact was not the case, because then I checked on the bottom and it was even warmer on the bottom as well, not just in one spot, but the entire bottom. Now, is that a problem? The unit never gave me a problem. I didn't see any speed issues, and it never shut down on me or anything like that. So I don't think it's a real issue, but I will say that other manufacturers' models do not get warm like that to the touch. Should it keep you from buying the unit? Absolutely not. Another thing, and this is one of my pet peeves, you know I like keyboards, but the hinges. The hinges on this unit, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, they seem nice and stiff and whatnot, but as you close it, it gets weaker and weaker so that it just falls shut. Any other model like the Panasonic Toughbook, that is a problem. Now I will tell you, as compared to the Dell, Dell's hinges on their units really are bad. So this is a step up from the Dell, but when compared to the Panasonic, I think the Panasonic hinges may be better. So that's number 3, is the hinges. Number 2 is upgradability. So what do I mean by upgradability? Well, to upgrade your memory, see, this came with 16 gigs of RAM. Let's say I wanted to bump it up to its max, which happens to be 32 gigs. How do I go about doing that? Well, it requires you to take apart the entire bottom plate of this laptop. Whereas in other models, Dell, Panasonic, Getac, they have little doors that you can just access with a couple of screws, pop it open, slide your memory in, and you're off and running. Now, maybe they did that in order to make it more watertight. I'm not sure, but it definitely, to upgrade this unit, it's a lot more work. And my number 1 pet peeve on this unit, and again, it's very minor, is these doors. They are clunky. I don't know a better word to call it, because what you have to do, and let's see if you can see right here, you have to unlock the door, and then the door pops open. And yeah, it's got a nice rubber coating here, as well as, you know, to keep the water out of that port. if you were to get it wet. But to close it, I gotta push it in and I gotta lock it. And that's how it stays closed. It's almost a two-handed operation. Whereas on other models, I can do it with one hand. Now, sometimes I can do it with one hand, but it's very, this would be the PCMCI ports. So that is my #1 pet peeve on that. And guess what? I happen to have 2 bonus issues with this unit that didn't really fit too closely in my top 5. But when I was using it, they have these little P1, P2 buttons at the top here. And the P1 button, when you push it, it blacks the unit out. So if you're in a dark vehicle as a police officer, for example, and you don't want light to be shown in your car, you can just push the P1 and it blacks the screen out and turns off the backlit chiclet keyboard. But P2, you can, I'm assuming you can define because it doesn't do anything. I couldn't find a good place to where they allowed you to set what that button could do. So that is certainly a bonus issue that I have, and again, it's nitpicking at best. I'm sure there's a way to do it, they just don't make it easy to find, and you know, on my next video, I may know how to do it, and I'll mention it to you whenever I figure it out. Another issue that I have with this, and it goes back to the screen, is this latch. Now, granted, it's spring-loaded, and you would think that when you close it, it's going to keep the unit closed. I go down, it doesn't close all the way. So what you have to do is push it to lock the screen in place. I'm sure that's by design, but let's say I'm in a hurry. Let's say I'm in my vehicle and I gotta pull this out of the car and I close it and then I get up, look what happens. It falls open, unless I take the time to snap it shut. Like I said in the beginning of the video, none of these issues should keep you from purchasing this DuraBook. I mean, every laptop that I review over here and talk about, they all have issues and they all have problems. They're individual problems. So that's about it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below, and I'll see you next week.